Seriously, it's bad news. Daniel Levy has stepped down from his duties at Tottenham Hotspur. It's mad. And people might think, why it's so sad? Why do you care? He's the reason that Tottenham are never going to win anything substantial, in my opinion. He's the reason that Tottenham Hotspur have been held back for so long. He's the reason that Tottenham Hotspur have lacked the ambition to go one further. Now, when I heard the news, I actually thought it was a bit of a joke because I never saw Levy leaving. I never saw Levy stepping down. I didn't see him getting sacked. I didn't see him moving on from Spurs. I thought that he was quite happy in his role, getting Tottenham Beyonce concerts, Anthony Joshua fights, Formula One go-karting, NFL. As far as Tottenham Hotspur were concerned, they were a tourist attraction, and that was Daniel Levy. And it looked like he was happy with that. It looked like he was happy with Champions League money. It looked like he was happy to do what he could to bring money in elsewhere. But when it comes to footballing reasons, I didn't think that he was the guy for Spurs whatsoever, which was why I was happy he was there. I didn't want him leaving. Spurs fans are so happy, man. And do you know why I get it? I get it. I get why if I was a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and I shudder when I say that, and I feel a little bit sick in my mouth when I say it, but if I was, I'd be absolutely loving this news. This is the news every Tottenham Hotspur fan wants to hear today. Daniel Levy's gone. Let's start by saying, as a football fan, taking my Arsenal hat off, and I think those taking their Spurs hats off would appreciate that there has been some positives with his time at the club, right? They got to a Champions League final whilst he was chairman. They moved to a beautiful stadium whilst he was chairman. I've never seen Tottenham Hotspur in a title race, but they were in one in 2016 with Leicester because of Daniel Levy. They were, of course, successful. I don't call it successful, but played some nice football under Pochettino, under Daniel Levy. So Spurs can say thanks for the stadium, thanks for putting us in a title race, thanks for that Champions League final, and thanks for the good football under Poch. But they've also got a hell of a lot of negatives about it when it comes to transfers, when it comes to money spent, when it comes to how the clubs run, when it comes to appointments of managers, when it comes to lack of planning, when it comes to lack of process or phases, as people like to call it now, when it comes to a lack of know-how and understand. But for me, when it comes to a lack of ambition, I never see Tottenham as an ambitious club. I always see them as a club that wants to be a part of the gang, but have never quite had the tools to do it. They've never quite had the ID to get into the rave. They've never really had the kind of tools to believe that they could be there and stay there. They've had glimpses of being there. And I always say with Tottenham Hotspur, it's like your nephew that wants his first sip of Guinness. Once he has that sip of Guinness, he goes and sicks it up in the toilet. That's what Tottenham are, right? Tottenham are like your little nephew that just wants to be an adult for a day. And when they go and make it and they're that adult, it comes crashing down. That's what Tottenham Hotspur have been under Daniel Levy. They've been seen as bottlers. And as far as Arsenal are concerned, yeah, for the last few years, I think we've been bottlers ourselves. But Tottenham Hotspur were always the gift that keep on giving. They were always seen as the team that were in the big six that never won anything. They were always seen as the team that deserved to be in the big six. They were laughed at when it was a European Super League that they were trying to get in alongside the likes of the European elite. So Tottenham have always been a club to be bantered and laughed at. And that has been in the majority of Daniel Levy's reign. Now, I understand and appreciate that there's some good things that has been done by Spurs. And there has been moments in the last decade where I've looked at Tottenham differently to when I was growing up. When I was growing up in the 90s, Tottenham were coming 13th, 14th, 15th under Glenn Hoddle and David Pleat. They were seen under Jerry Francis as a laughing stock. There was players that were probably glimpses of Klinsmann and Sheringham that were decent, David Ginola. But other than that, I'm starting to struggle, if I'm honest with you. You can go a little bit further to Gary Mabbott, but then you're starting to struggle after that towards the late 80s, the late 90s and 2000s. They obviously were successful in 91. We all know what happened there as an Arsenal fan. They were successful in 96 or 7 under George Graham, believe it or not, who won them their trophy. And then it took till 2008 to one day Ramos. And then, of course, another 16, 17 years until they were successful under Ange last season in the Europa League. So Daniel Levy can be a part of Spurs over the last couple of decades that he's been there and say that he's won a couple of trophies. He's been able to compete in the Champions League. He's been able to take Spurs to games against Real Madrid and Manchester City where they've been successful in the Champions League. But I've got to be honest, I can't give him that much praise because I think this is good news that he's going. I think it's bad news for us. Now, I'm not saying it's bad news because Tottenham now might compete and now might go and do trebles and doubles. That would be over the top, right? I think it would be crazy to suggest that. What they might do, though, is bring somebody in who's got some ambition. Bring somebody in that's got some know-how. Bring somebody in that's got investment. Bring somebody who's got ambition to want to take Tottenham Hotspur to the top. I've always said that Spurs have got all the gear but no idea. And Daniel Levy's a massive part of that alongside Enoch, Joe Lewis, etc. I don't feel like we know who was the next steps are yet. But I would hate a big takeover. I'd hate, someone with a lot of money who has ambition to take them, like Roman Abramovich took Chelsea, like Newcastle are being taken over and trying to be. And I understand it's not easy now. I understand it's not as easy with FFP and PSR. It's not as easy now for a billionaire to say, there's 6 billion, spend that on transfers over the next 5 years, and you'll go to the top. You're not allowed to do that anymore. PSR and FFP are saying you can't do that, right? So for me, it's made it a little bit unfair for people to play catch up. I think Newcastle have tried to play catch up and failed to do so because of the rules. We've seen for 4 transfer windows, they haven't been able to spend. And they've got the money. They're not allowed to. Tottenham will have that problem. The problem you've got with Tottenham compared to some of the others is actually what they make. Their stadium, what it makes, tourist attraction, as I said, the merch that they sell, the size of the club globally, the size of the fan base, and some of the players that they've attracted over the years that has brought fan base across the globe, like the signing of Son and how successful he was. I do personally feel like Spurs, with the right investment, could push on. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go do Liverpool and Manchester City stuff of the last 5 to 10 years, but I will say this. Tottenham have got all the gear. They've got the stadium. They've got the fan base. They've got the money that can be spent on a team. The reason everyone have been laughing at them is because they've had all the gear but no idea, and it's just funny. It's been banter. It's been bottle job FC. It's been failure at every hurdle. Up until last season, they were the ones we used to laugh at, right? Now, as I've said previously, and I'll say again, I think Arsenal have got to be careful because we're turning a little bit into that, where we're being laughed at and bantered for not winning stuff. But Tottenham have been a laughing stock for all of my time supporting football, and I'm 37. And it's mad. It's mad that he stepped down. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if he's been sacked, if he's been told he needs to go, if he's decided it's time. I'm sure it will come out in the next few hours about the actual ins and outs of the scenario of him leaving. But for whatever reason, he's either departed on his own accord or been told it's no longer welcome there. And I just think that means there's investment elsewhere. I think it means there's somebody coming in who's going to take Tottenham Hotspur over to a next level. I don't think they had the best transfer window. By no means did they have the worst transfer window. I think the signings of Xavi Simons and Eze, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, Spurs fans. Xavi Simons and Kudus are definitely good signings. Maybe, I'm touching on Eze, and I did actually do that tongue-in-cheek. Touching on Eze, maybe this was the last straw for Tottenham. Maybe they saw Eze as their number one target, and they felt that Daniel Levy was a massive part of the reason that Eze didn't come to Spurs. Now, I don't know if that's true. I truly believe that Eze wanted Arsenal, and I think we've seen since he signed the sentimental stuff and the brilliant trailers and the brilliant videos. But I think Tottenham really had their heart set on Eze, and I think Eze would have been a phenomenal signing for them. I said that at the time. Xavi Simons is a good buy. Kudus is a good buy. They've obviously got Madison and Kulusevski injuries. Don't know if they would have bought both of them if they were not fit, if they were still fit, sorry, but we'll see. I wonder where the goals are coming from for this season, and I wonder what it means for Tottenham this season. I think Thomas Frank will make them a hard team to beat. I think Thomas Frank will actually attract some players. And I think that Tottenham, like I say, have the potential to push on now because I think Levy was holding them back. I think Levy was a massive issue for them. And I used to banter with Tottenham about how Daniel Levy was the reason that they were in such a good position. They have a lot to thank him for. But really, it's banter, it's tongue-in-cheek, right? They've got things to thank him for. If they're being serious, they can say thanks for the stadium and thanks for the night in Champions League final and thanks for this and that. But really, what are they thanking him for? They're thanking him for having a nice, pretty stadium. They're thanking him for losing a Champions League final. They're thanking him for sacking the only manager that can get him across the line and putting Ryan Mason in charge. They're thanking him for a Champions League final that they got to and lasted 1 minute before they crashed out. They're thanking him for a title race that they threw away to Leicester City. What are they really thanking him for? Let's be real. They'll be like, good riddance. Good riddance. Are Tottenham left in a good place to kick on? I think they're left in an okay place. I don't think there's anybody in the Premier League at the moment that looks like they're a complete mess and that they'd need completely starting over again. Maybe you can look at Manchester United, but I don't think they need to start completely again. I think with the right manager, they'll be given a bit of a boost. With Tottenham, I think they've got a good manager there. I think he's going to make them hard to beat. I think he'll get them well coached and well drilled. And with the right ownership and the right leadership and the right understanding of structure above him and the right footballing men put in charge, if they've got ambition and money and investment, then Tottenham could be in a good place, which is why it's not good news. It's not good news. So I wanted to do a video on it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Daniel Levy has gone. Tottenham fans, I know you watch me. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And we'll see you on the next one. We're out of here. Hit like, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time.